Ambazonia, land of freedom. You shall live in plenty, meet in our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
Okay. So okay. In any case, I thank you very much for being around today. And in this hasty period, hasty time, a whole lot of things has gone wrong with the preparation. So I wanted to play the Biafran anthem as well, but unfortunately, it's like I've run short of it. I apologize for Biafrans who also would have liked to use this very moment to, share this relationship between Ambazonia and Biafra. I'm very sorry. I have done this in the past, and I think this will be the last time such thing will happen, that I will not be able to play you this Biafran anthem after playing that of our guest. Ambazonia and Biafra, they have a whole lot of commonality. So if I play Ambazonian anthem, I think I should do the same. Dr. Cho, this whole thing has been going around for the past 3 years. The Ambazonian has been in this very struggle and in this very fight, and I think a lot of people have died in the process. Millions have been displaced, and a whole lot of things has happened. Well, we know that the relationship between Southern Cameroon and the rest of the Cameroon, the French colony, were prompted by a post-independent agreement. One of the reasons why Southern Cameroon is fighting for the independence is said to be that the Cameroonian government wants to integrate them into the French majority system forcibly. This is seen by many Ambazonian, by many Southern Cameroonian as an attempt to destroy the cultural heritage and the identity of the Anglophone population. Could you please elaborate the historical background of the relationship and why you are fighting to see this relationship revised?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And all hail Biafra. And I use this opportunity to ask the Nigerian government to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, my friend, and the leader of over 70 million Biafrans. We will not allow impostors and occupiers to seize our leaders, put them in jail in their own countries, because they rise up to oppose their system of impunity and brutality. And so I encourage Biafrans to remain defiant in the face of what has happened to them all through history and what is going on in the great land of Biafra. Ambazonia and Biafra represent an economic bloc, a people whose economic activities and ingenuity can bring peace in the Gulf of Guinea and create wealth that can improve the lives of our people. We must resist impostors and tyrants who think genocide is the way forward to impose their rule on us, and they remain unaccountable, and we will continue to resist until we push them out of our land. Concerning your question, there has never been an agreement between Ambazonia and Cameroon. Cameroon is an impostor occupier. Ambazonia is occupied by a state that gained independence on the 1st of January 1960 without Ambazonia. And it has used brutality, genocide, massacre, to impose itself on our people. And we are fighting to protect our land, our territorial integrity, and to institute within Ambazonia a system of governance that is a reflection of our socioeconomic and political reality. And so we have, in the past 60 years, been resisting Cameroon at different levels. But in the past 5 years, there has been a full-blown war against our people that has resulted in the displacement of over 2 million people, has affected the lives of 4.5 million Ambazonians. So to cut the long story short, we are an occupied territory, and we are up in resistance against a brutal occupier who has no reason to be in our land.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. You said there is no agreement. There is the conception, there is the one of the things that the Cameroonian side continues to hold on is they use the word referendum. But there is the difference between referendum and plebiscite. So I purposely use the word agreement because I expect you to help us, distinguish between referendum and plebiscite. If there was a plebiscite, it can be said that it's not, for example, something that is holding. And if there was no referendum, then there was no agreement, like you say. Could you please shed light on these two conceptions, two vocabularies, to help our viewers understand why you said there is no agreement?
First, we should understand that Ambazonia, as well as Cameroon, including other trust territories, was a Category B trust territory under the United Nations trusteeship system. And under Article 76B of the Charter, the trustee was supposed to manage those trust territories until they gain their independence. And that's what France did with Cameroon, and Cameroon gained independence on the 1st of January 1960 without Ambazonia. And the United Nations, instead of fully granting us independence after we had constituted our government, our House of Chiefs, our House of Parliament, they decided, because of the fear of communism, to impose a plebiscite on us. A plebiscite is an expression of intention. And so they asked if we will want to integrate within Nigeria or to form a bicultural federal system of governance with Cameroon. And our people elected to form a bicultural system of federalism with Cameroon. But that was simply an expression of an intention. The United Nations passed Resolution 1608 on the 15th of April 1961, asking Cameroon and Ambazonia, including France and the United Nations, including the United Kingdom, to sit down and negotiate a binding understanding between Cameroon and Ambazonia that can be invoked as an international treaty. Do not forget, we were being run as a parliamentary system of governance, where even in the United Kingdom, when they voted to leave the European Union, that vote on its own was not binding either on the UK or on the EU. It needed an act of the UK Parliament to make it binding on the United Kingdom. And then it needed a signed agreement between the United Kingdom and the EU to make it a binding treaty under international law. The intention, the vote of 11 February 1961 was never translated into an act of the Ambazonian Parliament. Neither was the premise of Resolution 1608, passed in April 1961, ever translated into an international agreement between Yaoundé and Buea. Cameroon was used by France to impose itself, to manipulate its own constitution, which it imposed on Ambazonia, manipulating Ambazonian leaders, refusing to negotiate on the premise of the UN resolution, claiming we were all some black people and they wanted to recreate the so-called German Cameroon, where Cameroon was the mother state. So a plebiscite is an expression of an opinion, which we did. To make that outcome binding under international law, you must negotiate an international treaty, which Cameroon failed to do. And the expression of that outcome was never binding also on Ambazonia. So that's why we call it outright occupation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before, uh, coming to this program, I try to understand the whole thing from the point of view which you have just explained, because I wanted our viewers to understand the crux of the issue, from its political point of view, because it is not just enough talking on, social media without the educating our people. That's what Nnamdi Kanu does, and I believe that's what you do as well, based on what I have heard so far, some of your audios. So letting our people understand what exactly is the problem there is very important. That it was a plebiscite, and essentially that a plebiscite is not binding. You can go out and look it up in the dictionary if you will. You'll find out what a plebiscite means. So the occupation, as you put it, is a very sad one. Now, the question is, how do you get out from there? Because the Cameroonians, they have the international community behind them, and you are doing all you can do in order to make things work. You still have other issues like the internal conflict, but we are going to get that um, later on. So I would like to ask you now, sir, what's the direction of the struggle now and before, actually?
Yes, in the past 30 years or so, we have tried to get Cameroon to the understanding that its policies within Ambazonia are detrimental to its own political future and stability in the Gulf of Guinea and the enjoyment of our people of their right as a people. And we have proposed several internal solutions that could have solved, the conflict between us and Cameroon. But Cameroon has believed very strongly that the use of the military is the only way, is the only solution on the table. And each time, whether when we were students in the university, that we have sought to address specific issues like the nature of our educational system, the nature of our common law system, the economic policies of Cameroon in our land, Cameroon has simply responded with brutal force. It has rigged every election organized in our land. It has imposed two old men as president over our country for the past 60 years. And so in the last 5 years, lawyers and teachers went on the streets to ask for a reformation of both legal and educational system to make sure that we can enjoy as Ambazonians the common law system that is, fundamental to our own existence, or an educational system that makes our students an asset, not a liability. Cameroon responded with the arrest of lawyers and teachers, jailing them, brutally murdering thousands of our people. And I invoke the right of our people to self-defense, for the self-preservation of our people. And in the past 5 years, we have established an opposing army. We have eliminated their educational system and political structures in most part of Amazonia. And going forward, we have established our own educational system under Ambazonian supervision and control. We have asked all drivers within Amazonia to make sure that Cameroon and CEMAC number plates are not allowed within Amazonia. We've raised down their flag and raised ours. We've set in place our anthem. We are now building what we call the transitional liberation councils to look after our own communities in areas of education, in areas of development, sanitation. So we are gradually building a prototype system of Amazonia that will become a full-fledged and independent state. Our priority now is to defend the lives of our people, is to defend our territorial integrity, and to dismantle the last structures of Cameroon that are still scattered around Amazonia and being used as proxy centers of intelligence gathering, used in the killing of our people. We are at war, and I ask the world and Biafrans to support us to dislodge these enemies so that we can live in peace and freedom in our land.
Thank you very much, sir. Your intention is clear. No going back. just forward and establishing the structures that will enable you, get the Ambazonians together and move forward. Then we recognize, I understand that in most cases, one of the means used by oppressors to exert power over the people they oppress is to recruit politicians from the ranks of the oppressed. I would like to know these, what is the position of the Ambazonian politicians in the face of this struggle?
Ambazonian politicians are enablers of colonialism and enablers of subjugation. Colonialism and oppression usually succeeds when the oppressor recruits from amongst the oppressed, enablers and colonizers. I have ordered for all of their arrests, and they should be tried for treason, for enabling genocide and colonialism. And we are hunting them down one after the other, and will eliminate them from our land for the pain that they have caused to our people.
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, many international observers believe that the problem of internal conflict, like I've just mentioned previously, is still one of the most challenging tasks that the Ambazonian fighters must have to solve if they are to succeed in their struggle for independence. What do you say to this?
Internal conflict is part and parcel of every liberation struggle. You can understand a people who have been denied the right to life, the right to liberty and security, the right to humanity, the right to freedom of assembly, the right to vote for the past 60 years. When they rise up in resistance, you would expect these schisms, these initial divisions amongst them in terms of strategy, in terms of approach. And we also know the enemy works extremely very hard to fuel these divisions because it helps them. The Ambazonians are united in their objective. We'll have our days of divisions, but I'm also working extremely very hard to bridge the gap between myself and other movements and leaders. I just left London last weekend, where I met with the chairperson of the APLM, Dr. Akwanga, and we discussed how to work together. We'll have our challenges, but I can assure you that our challenges are far less, consequential in the face of a genocidal system that we are facing. Less than 40% of Americans supported their struggle for independence. We found in Eritrea, there were different factions. We found in South Africa, there were different factions. We will work extremely very hard to bridge the gap between ourselves so that we can end the nightmare imposed in our land.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to show our viewers a video of the Ambazonian Defense Force, and then I will ask you my question to that. Okay, so
yeah.
All right. I think
1st October 2021 at ICIAM. This one at the Command 2 under the Supreme General of the Ambazonian Defense Force, General being number not be easy at the Supreme General, part of the battalion, and this not be easy. If you see the only lady, Iron Lady of the Ambazonian Defense Force, not be easy, but not God. You see this the Command 2 video now on Siam. Not be easy, but not God. You want get power. The Ambazonian Defense Forces today, the 6th January 2021, at the Supreme General of the AGF, the Louis picking there. If it's up, not be easy, but not God. You want get power.
Okay. Now, sir, Dr. Cho, you are often described as a hardline among other factions. This is also evident in the fact that you are the only one among the leaders who have raised an army to fight for the Amazonian independence. Nevertheless, you must agree that this continued division, you know, the continued division among the Amazonian freedom fighters is not conducive to the struggle. You've just mentioned how you met, one of your colleagues in London. Okay, is there any other thing? I mean, you intend to do in order to overcome this division? As you know, it's a serious issue, and hence it's to overcome. The sky is the limit.
We are going to overcome the division, and I'm taking steps. I have spoken to other leaders, and so we can find models of collaboration that can help us work together. There are other leaders who will join forces with us with time. Division is part and parcel of every society, even in your family, at home, even with your spouse. It's not easy to agree on everything. The first thing is to accept that there are divisions. The second is to work hard, to show understanding, and to find a common position, even on little issues. And we are working hard, and I am definitely very sure that we will overcome the divisions. Ambazonia will remain a plural society with different political formations representing different interests, different directions, and different methodologies and strategies. And we will respect this plurality, because that's what makes also the garden a beautiful place, different sort of flowers and colors. But we must avoid the enemy infiltrating us and exploiting these divisions for its own end. So I can assure our people that we are working extremely very hard, and I ask them to support the various efforts and to make sure they themselves don't fuel the division for their own ends. I'm not a hardliner. I think I have been very soft with respect to the kind of ferocity that we are facing on the other side.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
You don't believe me? You don't believe me?
Well, you said that, I mean, you are just one of them that single-handedly organized a rally at the university, students demonstration, one single-handedly. It's your record. And the issue of the demonstration in Germany, I mean, it's just few people who can do that. I didn't even know that you had a demonstration in Germany, against the concerning the discrimination of asylums. I mean, when someone calls you a hardliner, there is a reason for that, and it's actually not it's not derog. On the contrary, is a respect. That said, let's just go forward, because I think I still have more to ask. The Berlin Conference, I want to know it from this point of view, of 1884 to 1885, also known as the Congo Conference of West Africa Conference, or West Africa Conference, regulated European, colonization and trade in Africa during the new imperialism. However, it also gave European countries the right to treat African as property. One of the measures Europeans took then to make sure that there is unhindered and enduring exploitation was to match African nationality, which had nothing in common regarding culture and landscape. Expectedly, this would lead to endless dispute among the merged nation. The relationship between Ambazonia and Cameroon, the French colony, and the resulting dispute could be seen as one of many in African countries. What impact do you think the struggle for Ambazonia independence has on African nations that have been thrown together into countries by European imperialism?
One of the biggest tragedy of the founding fathers of African Pan-Africanism or African nationalism was to focus on what they call the Berlin Conference, and even the notion of a nation state as of 1648, the Westphalian notion of the nation state. And so they develop anti-colonial stance or Pan-Africanist views based on opposition to what they perceive as artificial borders created within the continent. What they never recognized and put on the table was also how to address the schisms or divisions that have existed within the continent because of the migration of different tribes, the hostilities, and different clans conquering different places. The Ambazonian struggle is not based on what we perceive as those colonial lines. It is based on the notion of peoples who live within a particular territorial space and through time and space have developed common practices, a common way of life, a common system of living that gives them opportunity to live together. Now, the concept of nation state is developed along what they call natural topographies. We understand the Berlin Conference totally created artificial borders here and there, but some of those borders followed natural topographies like mountains, oceans, big rivers that were obstacles to the movement of people. And those natural barriers usually give people the opportunity to bond together, develop ways of farming, develop rearing things, and developing a system of local governance. Our struggle is to remind Africans and African tyrants who have hung on to power on these supposed anti-white colonial systems that you cannot then turn around and treat Biafrans as though they were a captured people, or treat Ambazonians as though they were a captured people. And if you want to dismiss the notion of the creation of African states based on artificial borders, you must respect the rights of peoples who have lived together for very long to practice their culture, exploit their resources, and ensure that they can enjoy those resources. So our struggle is to build a new nation of Pan-Africanism that respect the rights of peoples to self-determination, be they internal or external, and that states are created based on the consent of these people to join freely and not by force. You cannot force a people to be part and parcel of a political system when it does not give them the opportunity to live a self-fulfilling life. The struggle within Ambazonia is a message to all peoples in Africa and to the tyrants who run the European created plantations called states, that we want a new Africa, the creation of new states in Africa based on the rights of peoples who have commonalities in culture, in language, in different ways of life, that these states that are existing within the continent are unsustainable.
Right. Thank you. And then, as it is now, Ambazonia's, I mean, one can confidently say that Ambazonia have shown that resilience and resistance is actually perhaps one way, one effective way to get your neck out of the nozzle of oppressor. I mean, you have been in this situation for the past 3 years, and there is no foreign help. It's every issue has been, done so far by Ambazonians. is there any other country? I mean, you can say that they have acknowledged the Ambazonian effort so far.
Biafra has acknowledged it. That's important. That's our neighbor.
All right.
That's 70 million strong, one of the strongest economy within the continent. We have other countries. The United States has imposed some limited sanctions on Cameroon. The United States has called for a mediated settlement. The United Kingdom Parliament, both the House of Commons and the House of Lords, have debated the issue and have made it absolutely clear that the existing status quo cannot survive. The German Parliament has done the same. We have, the European Union has spoken about it. The UN has appointed a special envoy about it. The international system call on the Swiss to provide their good offices for a kind of a mediated settlement. One of my strategies from the beginning was to function like the eagle, to take away the struggle from the space where Cameroon was more comfortable to a space where it wasn't comfortable.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I don't know why you're laughing.
No, it's I mean, it makes sense for somebody to understand that you cannot beat someone with his own means. You must contrive a means that is quite different from that of your opponent in order to be able to match him. So it's unintelligible. It makes sense. So, well, the separatist forces had been repeatedly accused of civil misconduct by the government in Yaoundé. A Voice of America report on 15th September 2022 quotes a Cameroonian official statement that attack and the threats by the separatists have led to closure of many schools since the start of the school this year. That's this month, September 2022. So, what is your reaction to this allegation? My question is: are these well-founded, or would you say that these were mere pure propaganda by the Cameroonian government aimed at tarnishing the image of all the separatist group?
First thing, I have called on people to dig every Cameroon school existing in Ambazonia, dig it from the foundation. I don't think you can allow a foreign country to simply come into your land and build 4 walls and call them a school where it intoxicates our students. So every school that is owned and run by Cameroon should be dug from the ground. If that's what Cameroon calls attack on schools, then it should reconsider its claim to our land. Now, there has been some infractions by our own forces, there is no doubt. This is a very brutal war against our people, and our forces are fighting under very difficult circumstances, and you would expect some human rights violations. But those human rights violations are not systematic in nature. They are not driven by policy, unlike what we are facing as a people against the thugs and impostors on the other side. They're committing genocide. They've burned down more than 1,200 villages. They have displaced more than 1.2 million people. They have committed more than 120 massacres. They've kidnapped our comrades from Nigeria and from Biafra land and deported them to Yaoundé, where they have detained them under inhumane and degrading conditions. They have kidnapped more than 3,000 of our people and subjected them to systematic torture, which is a crime against humanity under the statutes of the ICC. So if there is any party to this conflict that is committing genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crime of aggression, and the illegal extension of its border at independence, it's Cameroon. And that's the state that should be put under an ad hoc tribunal for trial, or under the status of the ICC. We accept that there are infractions on our side, But those are little infractions which we have dealt with time and again. And we'll continue to educate our forces to know that you cannot emulate the practices of the enemy. You cannot act on your people in a way that contravenes the reason for which you are fighting. That the primary responsibility of our forces is to protect the integrity of our people, safeguard the interests of our people, and defend them against any enemy, alien or domestic.
Oh, thank you. Let's talk about the diaspora. I mean, in this struggle, I believe the contribution of the diaspora cannot be underrated. So I want to know what is the role of diaspora Ambazonia in the struggle? How helpful has their participation been in the struggle?
It has been very significant. It has been the only reason why Ambazonia is still existing. It has been the only reason why it's still existing. Social media has been the tool that we have used to expose the revisionism, denials, and a manipulation of Cameroon. So diaspora has been at the center of ensuring that our forces are armed, refugees are taken care of, our IDPs are taken care of. They've also played some negative roles in terms of fueling the division, and we can look at that from the perspective of the education we have received thus far. Manipulation, the system of corruption, where merit and knowledge has no place. Thuggery, lies, and manipulation makes you a hero within the society. And we have been using countermeasures like education and historical examples to let the diasporan community that has been very, very instrumental to understand that they can play a more positive role, and they should help, our people who are suffering under the terror of Cameroon, to speedily end their occupation. So diaspora will remain very important going forward.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think this will be my last question. I would like us to, talk a little bit about your relationship with the leader of the IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It must be said that both of you, you and Nnamdi Kanu seems to understand and appreciate these commonalities, between Ambazonia and Biafra. Consequently, you are the only one among the Ambazonian freedom fighter who declared an alliance with Biafra at a joint press conference with Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the IPOB. And, however, since 19th of July, 2021, Nnamdi Kanu has been abducted by the Nigerian government in Kenya, brought back to Nigeria, and held in a DSS center. So what has happened to this declaration of alliance? Does the stated aim of this alliance still exist despite the absence of Nnamdi Kanu?
It's even stronger when you declare friendship, and if your friend is taken, that is the moment that friend in jail knows whether you're a real friend or not. We are more closer to Biafra today than before the alliance was declared, and we maintain a healthy relationship with the DOS of the IPOB. We are in communication with them. We discuss on issues. We follow what is going on in Biafra land. We make statements. We call on the release of the leader of the Biafran people. And we have stated it absolutely clear. A threat on Biafra is a threat to Ambazonia, because Yaoundé and Abuja are in lockstep to ensure that they can destroy the dreams of both the Biafrans and the Ambazonian people. And that existential threat calls on us, Ambazonians and Biafrans, to stand up. Biafra was betrayed because Cameroon, decided to side with Nigeria to make sure that a genocide occurred between 1967 and when the Biafran War ended. And they have repeated that. It is time Biafrans understand we Amazonians and Biafrans owe these butchers and impostors no child support. They should leave our land. Whether they kill me tomorrow, they kill Mazi tomorrow, we, the people, must rise up and end this tyranny that has brought terrible pain and suffering on both peoples. That the land that is so endowed with natural resources has become a massive graveyard for both peoples. These two peoples have survived based on their creativity, their ingenuity, their ability to survive under difficult circumstances of terror and exclusion. And whether we are murdered, whether what happens, let these two people understand the end of Nigeria and the end of Cameroon must come as soon as possible. And I've stated it clear. The survival of the Cameroon state and the state of Nigeria depends on the preservation of Biafra and Amazonia. Let them take note. The continuous existence and stability of these two countries is directly linked to the self-preservation of Biafra and Amazonia. Not that we don't hate Nigeria. We don't hate Cameroon. We are not fighting against Cameroon. We are not fighting against Nigeria. We are fighting for our right to exist in the land of our birth. The greatest factors of production is land, labor, and capital. The land is taken away.
Yeah.
Labor is not even desired. We have no capital.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have nothing. And the last breath that we have, should be used for the preservation of these lands. And we call on Nigerians themselves to rise against the tyranny that exists in their land, and Cameroonians to do the same. We are speaking also to the Oduduwa people. We must bond together and preserve our nations. And we will decide as peoples to establish political institutions that is a reflection of our reality, to create the kind of states that will protect us from harm, exploit our resources to improve the lot of our people.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chiu. I think this is our last question. Before we go, I want to ask you a question. You are essentially an intellectual, but then you still retain your humanity. Do you know the word intellectual? Have you ever heard of intellectual? Intellectual. Oh, it's like his picture is frozen. All right. That's very unfortunate. That's actually was supposed to be the last discussion. I don't know what happened to his picture. Yes, I don't really know how to handle the case now anyway. But yeah, I think we actually have had our last question before that happened. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for being around today for this discussion. Despite the delay and disturbance we had as a result of one thing or the other that happened with the system, but we actually made it to have this discussion. So please connect to us through Facebook and Twitter, and then subscribe to our YouTube so that you can be notified each time we have a new video. This is Miro African Diaspora TV, live on Facebook and YouTube. My name is Robinson Afam Efna Ambrose. You are welcome today, and thank you for being part of the discussion today. And that's it. I wish you a wonderful evening wherever you are. Thank you very much for today's discussion. Bye-bye.